So yeah, we'll make a start now. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Like I said already, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you being here today at the launch of our consultation toolkit. So you should have all received a copy of the toolkit in your calendar meeting. I sent that out yesterday. So I sent out the version in English and the version in Welsh. So you should have that to refer to today. So yeah, so thank you so much for joining us, and I'll tell you a bit more about the plan for today and what we're hoping to do. So we're going to start off with a bit of an introduction to our project and sort of the work that we do, and then we're going to go on to tell you a bit more about the consultation toolkit, what it includes, how it was developed, why it was developed, just a bit of background information about the toolkit, so you can understand how and why it came about. We will be doing then a breakout room activity. So the aim of the activity is to give you a chance to familiarize yourself with the toolkit and get a chance to use it really, and have a look at sort of quick key parts of it. There's a short Mentimeter poll just to collect a bit of feedback. And then lastly, a chance for sort of questions and answers around the toolkit that you might want to ask Anna and myself. So to introduce ourselves before I carry on, my name is Fataha Ali. I'm the lead development officer on the Parents Connect Wales project. And I'm joined today by my colleague Anna, who also works on the project as a development officer. And we sort of job share on the project. So just to tell you a bit more about the organisation we work for. So we work for an organisation called Children in Wales. So some of you will be familiar with Children in Wales. So we are quite a large organisation and we work directly with children and young people through the work of Young Wales. We are a membership organisation, so we work with individuals and organisations across Wales who all work with children, young people and families in Wales. And the sort of the ethos behind the organisation is building a Wales where all children and young people have all their rights fulfilled. So a lot of the work we do is based around children's rights, and specifically the UNCRC, which we will tell you a bit more about today. So the Parents Connect Wales project is based in Children in Wales, and it's a project that came about from a need to sort of support parents and carers, understand the role they play around children's rights, and to help them to ensure that their children have their rights met. So it gives the parents a chance to share their views, ideas, and opinions with those who can make a change. And it came about as a response to parents telling us that they want to have a voice and they want to be heard. So the project has a professionals forum, which most of you will be a part of. We also have a parent advisory group, and we have an online hub as well. So lots of different elements to the project, and so all around giving parents a voice in their children's development and in getting their children's rights met. So to tell you a little bit more about the United Nations, the UNCRC, which is short for the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of the Child. So this is a really important agreement by countries across the world. There is one country that hasn't signed up to it. If anybody wants to guess, they can in the chat, but there's one country that hasn't signed up to it. But it's an important agreement, including Wales, who have promised to protect children's rights. It's an international charter. And in the UNCRC, there's 42 articles of rights, and these explain who children are, all their rights, and the responsibilities of governments. So all the rights that are connected, and in 2004, the Welsh Government formally adopted the UNCRC as the basis of policy making. So it's sort of embedded in policy making and legislation. So it's embedded in any policy making relating to children and young people. So it's quite an important sort of piece of legislation, and forms the basis of a lot of the work that we do. So now on to the main business of the day, which is sort of launching our consultation toolkit and telling you a bit more about it. So just to tell you, what is the consultation toolkit? So I think what would be helpful is, obviously, consultation is the main word that's being used today. So just to sort of give you a bit of an explanation about what do we mean by consultation. So just a simple definition is the act of exchanging information and opinions about something in order to reach a better understanding or make a decision. So that's the definition that sort of we're referring to when we use the word consultation. So it's just a way of hearing people's views and using those views then to change the way we make decisions. And especially the views of people who will be impacted most by those decisions. It's important to collect their views and make sure that they in some way shape the decisions that are being made. So that's what we mean by consultation. It could take lots of different forms, and that's sort of explained in our toolkit. So parents can be asked to fill in surveys, they can be asked to attend focus groups, and there's lots of other ways of consulting with parents as well. And it can be adapted to the needs of your group of parents as well. So it's important to understand that consultation comes in lots of different shapes and sizes, and mainly based on the needs of the group that you're working with. So parents are asked to give their views or their insights into lots of different things. It could be an idea, a proposal, an issue that is sort of coming up. So parents are asked about their views and sort of given a space to give us their views. And so those views are then listened to, and decisions are sort of informed using those views that have been collected from the parents. And obviously consultation, not just with parents, it could be with young people, any group of people. But obviously we're specifically talking about parents today. So I hope that gives you an idea of what we mean by the term consultation, because it's good to know, because we'll be using it a lot today. So why was this toolkit developed? How did it come about? So I think in the work that Anna and I did, we recognized the importance of parents' voice, and we were asked to sort of capture that parents' voice, in lots of different ways. And what we found was that the organizations we worked with, were really wanted to get involved. So whenever we had a focus group or we had consultation activities, they really, really wanted to get involved. We'd put out a call for sort of something that we wanted to find more about, and we'd get lots of responses from parent groups saying, yes, we want to take part. However, they all felt that they lacked the skills and the training, the confidence and the knowledge to carry out those consultations. So we had these groups of, parent groups, lots of them were volunteers based in the community, and, really, wanted to make a difference, but just lacked that confidence or hadn't done something like this before. So, we wanted to capture that willingness and enthusiasm and help them to sort of use that to run these sort of consultation activities. So we came up with the idea of developing a toolkit, because we really recognized the importance of parents' voice, and we wanted to capture that. And we wanted that to be captured by the organizations themselves, instead of going out and doing it ourselves all the time. So just to say as well that all of the images in the toolkit that you see were produced by parents across Wales that have engaged with our project. So they come from art workshops that we've done and photo competitions that we've run as well. So because we didn't want to use stock images, so they're all sort of images of parents across Wales that have engaged in our project. Okay, so so Anna and I came together, we sort of put our heads together, and we pulled together lots of different things and put it into a toolkit. And what we then did was we decided we obviously needed to pilot the toolkit. We needed to take it out, and we needed to sort of give it to a group of people and say, have a go at this and let us know what you think. So we work with the Community of Practice in Cardiff University, which is a sort of a creative and innovative research methods community of practice. So we took the toolkit to them and we sort of let them have a go using it and give us some feedback on what they thought. So we had 14 participants from a variety of different backgrounds. So this could be like researchers, students, people from the third sector and people from the public sector as well. So, you know, a wide range of people had a chance to use this and give us their thoughts on give us their thoughts on the toolkit. So then we used lots of evaluation methods and feedback methods. We did some brainstorming, we did some post-it notes, we did a Mentimeter poll, and we did a bit of a rapid feedback session as well. So, you know, by using all of those different things, we got lots and lots of information about what worked in the toolkit, what didn't. And then Anna and I went back and, you know, redesigned it again to sort of incorporate all of that feedback. So it has been piloted and, you know, we've had lots of sort of, we did make quite a few changes to it. And so hopefully then that, you know, makes it more usable, because that's the thing we wanted, was that it was, you know, friendly, user-friendly and practical. So to give you a bit of an idea of the aims of the toolkit. So the aims of the toolkit are to provide a range of printable resources, so things that you can print off and use, and that will support the engagement and involvement of parents in consultations. So giving the practical tools that groups needed to, you know, engage in consultation activities with parents. Also some guidance on how to plan and deliver focus groups with parents, because this is something that the parent organizations we were working with struggled with, was delivering the focus groups and planning them as well. And so giving them some really practical examples and step-by-step instructions on how to do that, thereby building the confidence and sort of building the capacity as well to deliver the focus groups in the future. We also provided feedback forms and other ways to sort of collect parents' views and feed them back into whatever decisions were being made. And also we gave an overview of some creative ways to engage with parents as well. So there's things in there of how to engage with parents creatively, and also things like icebreakers that they could use as well when working with parents groups. So yeah, so I think that was it. And I'm just going to go back to this slide, because I was supposed to say that this picture is of a consultation that we carried out on childcare, and it was with a group of Bangladeshi women. And it was a really engaging consultation, and we had an interpreter as well there, so that we could sort of capture the views of the women who were struggled a little bit with a language barrier. So yeah, that just to sort of give a bit of context to what that picture is. So I'm going to hand over now to my colleague Anna, who's going to give you a short overview of the toolkit and just to give the chance to sort of delve in a little bit and have a closer look at it. Okay, Anna, so over to you.
Thank you, Fatia. Thank you for that. And it has been a long process to get to this point. So we are very excited to share this with you today. And as Fatia said, there's been lots of feedback and lots of changes to the toolkit over time. So we feel like we've been able to hear the voices of lots of people to make sure it's as usable as possible. So we're really hoping you do find it useful today. So I'm just going to delve a bit more into a little bit of the toolkit, pull out a few examples of some of the things in it. But we are going to then give you individually about 5 to 10 minutes to have a look through the toolkit before we go and do an activity. So don't worry too much if you haven't had time to look at it in detail. So the first thing I'm going to kind of draw your attention to is when you look at the toolkit, one of the, I think it's about on the, let me just check this, well, about the third or fourth page in, we've got a consultation process chart here. It's all in one long line. We've just split it up here for ease of you for reading. And this really is how the toolkit is designed. It's designed in a way to help you, guide you through the process of doing a consultation, where you start, the decisions you need to make, and then right down to that feedback to parents. So it's a real good starting point and a good guide for you to work with. And many of you will use this in different ways depending on where you're at with working with parents. Some of you may have a group of parents that you work with regularly, so you may not need to identify that group of parents, but then you'll need to start to think about what approach you take and where you're going to do it and the resources you need, etc. So this process chart is a really good starting point, a great resource to use just to help you take you through what you need to do. And as I said, the toolkit then is designed in this way to guide you through the chart and help you develop the process as you go through. So definitely have a little look at that one when you have a chance to look at the toolkit. And then we've also then provided in the toolkit a number of example session plans. If we go to the next slide, thank you. This is an example of a session plan that we did. This is for a focus group. We've also got sample session plans of an art workshop we did. They are only templates. What they will do is just give you an idea of how you could run a session. The timings obviously will vary depending on what you need, but it really helps you think about the structure of how you introduce things, icebreakers, the activity, and then that summarising and conclusion. And what we've also done is through each part. So as you can see, there's clickable links. Sorry, go back. I haven't finished on that one yet. There's clickable links on each part when we've spoken about things. So if we mention, it would be really good to maybe think about a group agreement or decide on doing icebreakers. What we've done is given you a link to where that is in the toolkit. So we try to make it as usable as possible. So if you're digitally using it, you can click on the link and it will take you to the page that we're referring to. So hopefully that will be useful if you're using it in a digital format. So again, you can use these as you want and just gives you an idea. This is obviously based around something that we've done, but it really helps you think about and how you can plan a session. Because some people who are using this toolkit will never have run a session before and not really know how to structure it. So we hope those templates will really help people to think through the process of that. And then we've also then designed a very simple feedback form. This has been specifically designed for people who are kind of maybe working, providing information on behalf of Parents Connect Wales, but you could also be doing it for your work. And what we wanted to do was give you an idea of some of the things you might want to think about collecting and feeding back. So it's really simple, just thinking about noting down the date of the consultation, who is taking part, the ages of the children, what area of Wales you're in, and a little bit around obviously the topics and themes discussed as well. So we provided a very simple feedback form, but it really just helps sort of structure that thinking about what you need to pull out of the consultation. Then another section which is really important, as many of you will know, safeguarding is vital, isn't it? And really, really important. And when you're working with parents, it also needs to be considered. So what we provided here is a very simple safeguarding checklist of things that you can think about before you run your session, things you need to perhaps have in place or need to be aware of. And if you aren't and you do need more support, what we've done is directed you to more training or more information about where you can find out about things that you'll need to put in place before you carry out a consultation. And then the final section, which is quite a big section of the toolkit, and Fatih's already kind of mentioned some of this, is made up of a number of resources, which hopefully lots of you will have already seen because they're already available on our hub page, but they're made up of the resources that we've developed, co-produced with parents over the last year. These are all kind of at the end of the toolkits so you can download, but they're all in one place which you can refer to. Most of them are in poster format, but the Understanding Children's Rights is in a leaflet format, but it's all individually on the pages within the toolkit. And where necessary, we referred you to those particular resources as you go through the toolkit. So everything's in one place and hopefully really, really usable. So that's a little snapshot of the toolkits. I think there's only so much I can share with you. What we want to do is be able to give you the chance now to have a little look through the toolkit yourself. I think Fatih has already.
Yeah, I can't seem to attach the PDF, but I've tried to attach it and it won't let me. But put in the link to our Parents Connect Wales Hub. If you scroll to the bottom, there's a link to download it. And also I sent it out in your calendar invite. So if you go to your calendar invite, there's the toolkit. I've attached it in English and in Welsh. So the toolkit's available there. If anybody has any problems, we can sort of I think yeah, I could send you it the PDF somehow, but for some reason it let me do it yesterday, but it won't let me do it today. But yeah, hopefully there's a few different ways there to access the toolkit. So yeah, just have a just take a chance to
So if
sort of
if we take 5 minutes now to have a little look, feel free to just do it with your cameras on or turn your cameras off, and we'll just come back at past, and then we'll talk through what we're going to move on and do, so we can really delve in and have a go at using the toolkit. So yeah, just take 5 minutes now to have a little flick through. You don't need to read it word for word, just familiarize yourself with the toolkit and have a little look at it, and then we'll come back at past to talk through the activity.
Yeah, and feel free to use the chat to sort of make any comments or yeah, and anything you want to say, just feel free to use the chat to do that.
Okay, we'll come back together now just because of time, but I hope you've had a chance to have a little look at the toolkit and have a flick through. If anybody has got any particular questions that they want to ask now, then feel free to, or pop it in the chat. We can.
Yeah, any comments, any feedback, any sort of thoughts, then yeah, we're more than welcome to sort of share with us and use the chat as well. Yeah, how did everyone find the toolkit?
Comments, thank you, in the chat. I'm glad it's nice and clear. I think that's what we try to do, and that's the kind of feedback process of going back to people and finding out their views. So. Okay, well, if you do have any questions, like I said, pop it in the chat, and we'll have time as well before we finish at the end to come back to any questions as well. So what we want to do now is have a chance for you to delve a bit deeper into the toolkit, have a think about how you could use it, and consider a few things as well. So we've got a little activity. I know there's a few people that have had to leave, but hopefully most of you can stay on to have a little go, because it's really good, I think, if you read a toolkit, to be able to then have a go at using it and spend this time now to really have a go at putting it into practice. It will really help you as you move forward. Okay, so if we can move to the next slide and I'll talk through the activity, that'd be great for you. Okay, so what we want to do now is give everybody a chance to, in small groups, to have a look at a scenario, a really simple scenario. It's just a consultation scenario, and think about what approach you might take when you're working with parents. And then within your breakout room, you'll have a couple of extra considerations to think about when planning your consultation approach that you might take. So we'll talk through the scenario in a moment, and then we want to have a chance then to have 20 minutes to have a little talk in your groups, then come back, feedback, and what me and Fatia can hopefully do is listen to what you've suggested, and then also give you some other ideas of potentially how you could use the toolkit in other ways as well. So I think it'd be real kind of practical use of our time. So the scenario that we're going to do, like I said, it's really simple, and really a good opportunity to think about how you could carry out some consultation. So we're putting forward the idea that you've been asked to carry out some consultation work with a group of parents on behalf of Welsh Government. Welsh Government would like to understand, this is a consultation we did recently, by the way, so you may recognise it. Consultation want to understand from parents and kind of families wider how they use and how they view and childcare. So why do they use it, and how do they view it? What are their priorities when they're choosing childcare? And then what changes would they like to see in the childcare provision in Wales at the moment? So using the toolkit, just have a little think. You don't have to necessarily write loads of things out. You can just talk about it and make a few points. Have a look through the toolkit and think about how you carry out and plan a consultation activity to find out these things from parents. Don't worry about writing it down. We'll share this in your breakout rooms as well. Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. So is that have you gone the wrong way with the
No, I
slides?
just know if you just sort of cover what they would need to do in the breakout rooms.
Yeah. So we're going to look at the scenario and think about what consultation approach you'll take, and then look at the resources within the toolkit, and then we want to have a little chance to provide some feedback on your decisions of what you're going to do. So each breakout room will have the same scenario. So you'll have that scenario that we've just shared with you, which we'll put into the chat in a moment, and then each breakout room, depending on the room you're in, and we'll tell you which that is, you'll have a particular extra thing to think about. So, for example, group one will think about a little bit about safeguarding and how they can consider that when they're planning the activity. The second group will think more about how they can perhaps bring children's rights into the consultation activity. And then the third group will think more about how they can do some more creative methods to engage kind of a wider group of parents that perhaps have got some additional kind of needs that they need to be considered. Okay, so those are the kind of thing, that's what we're going to be thinking about. So we're going to put you into breakout rooms and give about 20 minutes to have a look at the scenario. We will put the scenario into the chat, so don't worry about remembering that. And we'll tell you which activity or which particular extra consideration you need to be thinking about. So we'll put that in the chat within your breakout room. So I'm just going to check that.
Yeah, welcome back, everyone. I think, yeah, lots of people cut off mid-conversation, weren't they? So I'm not sure where Anna is, but yeah, we'll do some feedback
I'm here.
now. Oh, there you are. I thought you were lost in one of the rooms somewhere. Yeah, I'll let Anna sort of do some
Everybody back
feedback.
there now. I think, did we lose a
Yeah, all the
few?
rooms are
Okay.
all
Oh,
the rooms are
okay.
closed, so I think it doesn't look like anyone's trapped in a room.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. Yeah, trapped in a room. Okay, so I hope you found that useful. A chance to, even if you had a discussion just around generally around consultation with parents, and hopefully you had a chance to look at the toolkit and think about it. So we're going to have a bit of a chance for some feedback, but not, formal feedback, just sharing what you discussed. And then Fatia and myself will try and kind of give you some pointers as well of ideas about what you can do. And actually, we'll probably learn from each other, which would be really helpful. So if you didn't note what group you were in, I did write it down because often we come back and I say group one and no one knows they were group one. So so group one was Grace, Bethan, Sarah, Karen. I think Karen's had to go, hasn't she? And Caroline. So if that group had a particular activity to think about, and theirs was safeguarding was their one to think about in that group, and they obviously have the same scenario thinking around childcare and those questions that we're putting forward to parents. Is anybody in that group happy to kind of just share the general theme of conversation, any particular ideas you came up with and things you discussed? Anybody happy to do a bit of feedback? I don't know what group you were in, Fatia. Were you in that group or did
I
you
was in
move
room
on?
4. We were doing the parents' voice and children's rights.
Anybody from group one happy to give us a little bit of insight? Only really informal, so nothing too.
I'll give a couple of.
Thanks, Grace. Lovely.
If I can remember. Yeah, we spoke about due to obviously the theme of childcare, we think sort of some of those breakout activities around sort of parenting would be quite nice to sort of get the ball rolling, as it were. And then looking at safeguarding sort of specifically, we spoke about maybe that at the beginning when you look at those sort of group rules, sort of mentioning that, this is a safe space, sort of a zero judgment area. However, particularly if an organization's doing a consultation on behalf of like yourselves, it's sort of mentioning just that, the information you share isn't just going to be held by us. It does have to be shared with sort of other partners. So it's just sort of to make people aware of that. But then it's also, it's not to make people afraid of saying, how they feel. So also maybe mentioning if there is anything that is said in this room and it makes you think about something else and you want to discuss it privately after, then that just goes back, I think, to knowing your own internal safeguarding sort of policies and procedures. we also just spoke, I mean, I just said personally, doing that consultation before, I think that feedback element is one of the most important, and particularly sort of having that recognition that the time people gave goes a long way, and it's all sort of will help parents be engaged further in the future. And also the sort of the ownership of having a small budget and how you want to work with that with a group, and that also goes a long way. I didn't note anything down though, so there's probably quite a few bits I did miss if anybody else wants to jump in.
No, that's well, yeah, if anybody does want to jump in, but Grace actually took part, as she probably said to her group, took part in the actual consultation we did on behalf of Welsh Government around childcare. And as she mentioned, we did provide a small budget for the organisation that was working with parents to decide how whether they incentivised it and gave parents vouchers for their time, whether they provided funding for the workers to carry out the consultation or provided refreshments, etc. We left that up to them. But as she mentioned, we also we're really, really cautious, really want to make sure that we provided feedback to the parents. So we asked the Welsh Government to do that. And as part of that, I think it was only a few weeks back, they put a letter together thanking the parents for their time and just giving them a little bit of information on how they were going to use their views. And as Grace says, that's so important. And that's why it's at the bottom of our, part of our consultation process to ensure that feedback is given. So it's really good to have that feedback from yourself saying that worked really well for the parents, and it absolutely does. I mean, everybody is more encouraged to do something again if they're thanked for their time and rewarded for their time. So thank you for that. And safeguarding is a bit of a complicated one, and the things you mentioning it at the start in that group agreement is really, really important. I think that's a great way to do it. Parents will know that if they do raise something, probably that it will need to be followed up, but you do need to make that very clear to them. But if you're working with a group of parents that you know quite well, then hopefully you'll be able to kind of know their situation, but having that discussion with them is really, really important. I did just see something in the chat around, was it relating to this?
Asked, do you need to consider data protection when holding consultations? I can't see any reference to it in the toolkit. Many thanks.
So I don't think it's referenced. So if you're collecting any particular data, as in their direct names of parents, etc., then obviously different data protection rules apply. Most of what we collect would be more general data, and we're passing that on. But I suppose it depends on your organisational approach. But we don't collect any personal data when we're doing these consultations. It's all anonymised. The only information we collect is the area of Wales and how many parents took part, but we don't collect anything more formal than that. But that may depend on what you're doing. Any other thoughts on that group? Did any other group do the first one, or was it just safeguarding was only
no, it was just the one group. Yeah, it was just the one group. Two groups did the parents' voice, and one group did the other two activities.
Any other thoughts on that group?
I think that's it.
Okay. And then, so group 2 was Jacob, Dina, Claire, and Susan. Sue. Anybody in that group? And you were focusing on parents' voice and children's rights. Anybody happy to kind of just share a little bit about what was talked about?
And it's okay if you didn't answer the sort of, if you didn't do the brief. If you just had general conversations about other things, we're interested to hear about those as well. It doesn't have to be sort of that you answered the questions and things like that. So yeah, any thoughts about parents and children's rights? Because the other group as well did that, did they? Catherine and
Jen and Emma did that as well. So that was group 4. So anybody, I suppose, do those feedback together? Anybody from those two groups want to share?
And Jenny, they were in that group. I'm not sure if Jenny's still there. So
they do a bit of feedback from what we were discussing in our group. So we were lucky to have Jacob in our group. So we actually spent quite a lot of time talking about dads and engaging dads. But that was kind of useful, just thinking more generally about different groups of people and how actually what's really important is to make sure that we're creating a really safe space. So whoever that kind of perhaps minoritized group or kind of excluded group is, whether it's dads or others, how we make a really safe space for them. We were talking about ways of kind of settling into a session, so doing things which aren't directly related to the big questions first. So Jacob was saying that in their groups they go for a walk first, a walk and talk, which is a really nice way of kind of starting conversations, more casual conversations, to then kind of get people ready for kind of talking about other things back in the room. So that felt really useful, making sure people feel comfortable. And we also would mention sort of setting clear expectations, that people might be coming with different expectations of what the consultation is for and what they want out of it. So asking people clearly what they hope to get out of it. But also it's an opportunity to sort of talk clearly about what it's for. So make sure that people's expectations are matched, I guess. That's what I took from our conversation. I don't know if anyone else from the group had anything to add.
We spoke about validation as well, didn't we? But I think you've covered pretty much everything. Whatever, excuse me, whatever group you work with, parents just want validation. Mums, dads, they want to be acknowledged. What they're saying is being sort of taken seriously, not pacified and brushed off. And Claire was saying different scenarios that she's used with the groups that she works with, which sort of opened the floor up that, you know, we try not to be everything to everyone, but everyone learns differently and everyone's needs and wants are very different. So I took quite a lot from what Claire had said in our group, because it made me think about how we can engage with our dads maybe on a different level at times.
I'm glad you've been learning from each other. I think that's the benefit of breakout rooms, isn't it? Sometimes just having that chance to hear other people's the views. And I think that really, it's more than an icebreaker, what you've talked about, isn't it? It's that time for them to, you know, speak with others, and like you say, in the walk and talk, and that time at the beginning, which isn't straight into a consultation. It's the chance to hear from parents. And to be honest, you get so much from that anyway, don't you? Whether it doesn't have to be a formal approach into how you're doing it. Thank you for that. That's really, really helpful. Anybody else want to share anything from those two groups?
Yeah, I mean, we also had the parents' voice and children's rights. We didn't get into a big discussion about it, but I was just saying that, you know, one of the groups that I do quite regular consultation with is a group of parents of children with disabilities and additional needs, and how they're quite often in kind of like fight mode when you go to speak to them. So I think that work around the UNCRC will be a really good exercise to do with them as well. But yeah, I think the toolkit's brilliant, and we sort of discussed different methods of engaging with people, and how surveys have kind of maybe people are a bit surveyed out, so it's quite nice to get people together, and there's that social aspect, and whether we should be using incentives and adding value to consultations to get people kind of through the door. There's loads to think about on there, so yeah, it'd be really, really useful in my work. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Jen. Yeah, you're right. People struggle. Surveys aren't the best option, are they, all the time? And also, like you say, parents are in different places. I went to a group and we were doing a piece of work with parents with new babies. So the babies were very, very young. So, you know, under a few months old. Some parents were more than happy to engage. Others were just exhausted, tired. They admitted they didn't have the brain power to take part in this activity. Well, that's fine. But we still rewarded them for their time for being part of it. But they were open and honest. So every parent's at a different point, isn't it? But that's really great that you can see how you can bring in children's rights into part of the work. And it doesn't have to be done massively formally. It can be done quite more subtly, and just helping them to understand the role they have to play in supporting their children's rights, and giving them some tools to use when they are feeling like, you know, that fight mode, isn't it? But they can have those tools behind them to move forward and try and get that provision and what their child needs. Thanks, Jen, for that. Okay, the last group then, there's only one group that was looking at this, and this particular, they had the same scenario, the activity was thinking about how they can use a range of different methods to engage with parents. So a bit like what we just touched on, surveys don't work for everybody, but there's a number of methods that we've included in the toolkit, which are more creative ones that could be more useful in some situations to encourage parents to get involved. So this was whoever I haven't mentioned the last group, which was group 3. Bryony, Nadia, Gary, and Rian, if they're still here.
I made a few notes, so I'm happy
fab.
to.
I was about to say, go for it, Bryony. I knew you were typing away.
So yeah, a few of the things we spoke about was that it's quite good to have a range of different methods available, so you don't necessarily have to just pick one. So you could have an overall theme or topic, and then use multiple methods to collate the information you need. So you might get people who would never
do a workshop, but would be happy to do a survey, for example, or vice versa. And also being clear what will happen to the data that you collect afterwards, to make sure parents feel like they're being heard and they kind of know what it's going towards. I think that came up a bit in the safeguarding as well. And also going to where people are in their communities. So yeah, making sure that people feel comfortable in the environment that they're in and kind of going to them rather than expecting them to come to an external venue that they might be less familiar and comfortable with, for example. Yeah, Nadia, Rianne, please add anything if you think I've missed it.
No, I think you did. Yeah, I think we had loads of conversation around that. And I think that's the thing. I think finding that creative method, especially to engage with like people that may not engage, like you say, with certain consultations, but going to where families are and where communities are and finding that person that, you know, has got that influence, I suppose, and getting them to support us with setting those things up. And I think they're the key kind of things. And I think the theme through all of it is making sure that when we've heard what they've said, what we're doing with that, isn't it? We've listened, and this is what we've done with that.
Yeah, that comes back to that feedback. It is so important, isn't it? You know, to tell them, and even at the start, to be quite clear about why we're doing this consultation, where it's going, and what we're hoping to achieve, isn't it? And in reality, not everything they say is going to make that difference, but we're making sure we are feeding those views in, and they're told if something can't happen, why it can't be happened. A bit like we do with children and young people, isn't it? We need to keep that line of communication open. No, thank you. That's really great. And I hopefully you were able to see in the toolkit a range of methods that you could pull on, and hopefully seeing what was in there gives you an idea of what you could potentially do and feel more confident to take that on. One of the things that questions that does come up when we talked about the photo consultation method that we've used a couple of times now, people do get a little bit concerned around consent for using photos. So we do make sure that when we ask parents to submit photos that they're given an automatic email back which asks about consent, and they can opt out straight away and it not be used any further, or so it's only used for that piece of consultation. We're not shared any wider, and if they want to and they're happy to, we can share them wider. So there is kind of more detail behind that, because some people can be very put off about using anything to do with photos. But I think we wanted to try and encourage people. There are ways to do it, and it's a great method to use, and not to be reason to be put off, but to think about the fact that you can put those consents in place and opt-outs for parents as well. Okay, so I'm just going to check the chat. See if anything else can... We've got, Catherine said about well-being. Yeah, it's really important to consider the well-being, and using the consultation as an opportunity to support well-being. Absolutely, like we were talking about that. Even whenever it happens, if it happens at the start, making sure we're considering the well-being of parents, and this can be addressed. So the art workshops that we carried up. I don't know, Fatia, if you want to share a little bit about the art workshop that you did, but it really was a well-being exercise, wasn't it, in itself? Really, although that wasn't the pure aim of it, it really became that, didn't it, in its approach?
Yeah, so I think we discussed it a bit in the breakout room, but just sort of combining consultation with a wellbeing activity. So not calling it a consultation, maybe calling it a coffee morning. You could do like a yoga class, like Jacob was talking about, doing a walk. So combining the consultation with some sort of wellbeing activity, because parents don't have a lot of free time. So when they do have free time, they want to be doing something which is nice, or which is sort of going to benefit their well-being. So I think we've put it in the toolkit a little bit, just a few things in the ideas of creative ways. But doing things like an art workshop, which a lot of the parents found therapeutic. They've really enjoyed doing something mindful. And just sort of making it enjoyable, and also involving their children, because obviously if they're parents, they've got children, so try and do maybe some activities that also involve their children as well. So it's just lots of different ways of making consultation or those kinds of things more attractive for parents. So those are the things that will increase the engagement of parents.
It's not always easy, because again, I did a consultation with parents and babies. So involving the babies and trying to do a consultation was great. We had lots of ripped up pieces of paper and things, but it were, you know, we managed it, and absolutely the babies had a lovely time and the parents were able to engage. So being relaxed in your approach was definitely the way forward with that. But thank you so much. That's been really, really useful. Sorry, Fatia, did you want to come in?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just aware that some people might need to leave. So we've got
Yeah.
a quick Mentimeter poll, which is one of the methods we've got in the toolkit. So we Mentimeter, if you've never used it before, it's an interactive way of collecting ideas. It's just sort of an online poll, almost like a quiz. There's it's Kahoot, I think it's called. It's very similar to Kahoot. It's just a way of collecting views in a quick, easy way. So just to sort of ask for some feedback on today in the toolkit as well. We've put together a quick Mentimeter. So if you could have a go at that. And then, yeah, also it's one of the methods you could look at as well when engaging with parents. We've used it in the past with parents and it's been really successful. We've had really good engagement from parents whenever we've used a Mentimeter poll. So yeah, it would be really appreciated if you could just sort of fill in this quick form. It's only 3 or 4 questions, just to sort of give us some feedback on today. Really appreciate that. And then we've got just to tell you about our online hub as well. So the toolkit now is on our online. Oh, I don't know why this is not working. Yeah, the toolkit is on our online hub, which some of you may have seen already. But this is the code for our online hub. It's like it sits within the Children Wales website, and just lots of information and resources for parents in Wales and for professionals working with parents as well. So yeah, please do visit our online hub just to see sort of just to sort of see if there's things on there that would help you in your own work as well. And then lastly, something else called a Padlet, which is just like a web platform where all content is uploaded and organized. We've got a Padlet as well for our project where you'll find really good resources, really good information, and yeah, lots of different things that might help you in your work. So yeah, just to sort of give you a few things to sort of take away with you. But yeah, I'll put the Mentimeter back on because I think I'd really like everybody to fill that out if they can. But yeah, I think the last thing that we've really got to say is there any questions that anybody has? I know, yeah, I think we've got the chat in the chat. I'll have a look. If there's any questions anybody has, please do put it in the chat. And if you do use the toolkit and you want to ask myself or Anna any questions, you've got our emails. Feel free to drop us an email and we're happy to sort of help, support, advise as best we can. Yeah, so yeah, does anybody have any questions before we sort of leave? And Anna, I'll hand over to you in case you wanted to add anything. Anna?
I didn't. Sorry, I'm waiting for any questions just to see if anybody had any questions. No, I don't need to add anything. That's absolutely fine. Thank you. And yeah, I hope you found it useful. And yeah, I suppose this is just a starting point. So please use it. Please share with us your thoughts and your feedback on it. And yeah, we're hoping you find it useful as a resource for you to use. But no, thank you for taking the time and thank you for staying with us as well and taking part in the breakout rooms. That definitely deserves a clap. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
We will, and just to say, we will circulate the links and everything we've mentioned to everybody that's attended today. So don't worry too much if you haven't managed to note down any of the links. We'll send those out to you later on today or tomorrow. But thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. We know how busy everyone is, so thank you.
Yeah, and we've recorded this as well. So, hopefully then that we'll put that onto the Children Wales website as well. For anybody who missed it, we'll put it onto the toolkit page. So anybody who's missed it can just sort of catch up and just find out a little bit more about the toolkit. Okay, so yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
And yeah, good luck, and we hope you can use the toolkit in your work.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks all.